जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जना वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदनन्दन व्रज जन्नरन् यशोदनन्दन व्रज जन्नरन् यमुनतीरावनचारि ीरावनचारि राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गिरिधारी राधा हरे राम जय जगन्नाथ जय बलदेव जय सुभद्रा जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद जय गुरुदेव गुरुदेव जय गुरुदेव योग श्रीपाद प्रभु सप्रेम जगचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री ऐसी भक्ति राम स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा गिरिधारी भगवान की जय श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्र मैया की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to the small devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the small devotees Hare Krishna all glories to the small devotees Hare Krishna all glories to lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga all glories to Srila Prabhupada all glories to Srila Gurudev Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam ततो जयम् उदीरयेत् नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यम् भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. First off, before we start today, I would like to extend my apologies for the fiasco last week. There was some major technical issue, as a result of which, although I did sit to give the class, somehow it was not relayed to all the audiences. So, on behalf of the management, my heartfelt apologies. So we'll continue today where I was supposed to start in the last class. Well, I'll just repeat that sequence today and then continue. Hopefully, there won't be any disruptions today, and I'm still a bit fearful, and I hope and pray that things work out well. Talking about fear, everybody in this material world is undergoing fear. More so in today's situation all over the world, everybody is fearful. And just when you think that, oh, I'm okay now, something happens that brings the fear back in you. In New Zealand, we always thought that, okay, we've crossed COVID, we're all good. And just when we were all set, we heard the bad news again that COVID is back. People became again fearful. So everybody is fearful for different reasons. But the point is, they are fearful, or we are fearful, because in general, people do not have any support, do not have any anchor in their life that they can hold on to when they are faced with miseries, uncertainties, problems. They just don't know who to fall back on. They try and fall back on material objects, material people, but it's frustrating. And we know the consequences of taking support of something material. It's just like the child, the small child. When the child starts to walk and falls, the child becomes a bit alert. The child is not sure completely of his own abilities, he doesn't have that much confidence. So what does the child do? The child holds on to the finger of the child's father or mother or somebody elderly. So the child holds on to the person as an anchor. Why? Because when the child starts to walk and it is about to fall, or it senses any danger, or the child feels that I might slip and fall, what does the child do? The hand is already there, he's already holding on, but then when he's in trouble, what does he do? He holds it even tight. And when he holds it tight, what happens? He doesn't suffer. He doesn't fall and get hurt. He's well protected. But when the child grows up and starts to have the confidence, does not feel the need to hold on to the parents' fingers. We often see sometimes when children, they grow old and they start going to school, and in the lower years it's okay, but slightly when they grow onto the higher classes, and the father or mother is holding their hands and taking them, when they cross the road, obviously they have to hold hands, so they hold it. After crossing the road, when they come to the school and they're about to enter the school gate, the child suddenly takes away his hand from his father or mother's finger and says, I'm fine, don't hold my hand, I'm not a baby anymore. Familiar scene? Yeah, it happens. And then they say, you don't have to come and drop me, I'm fine, I can cross roads, I'm on my own, don't worry about me. I don't want you to come and hold my hands and take me to school. And this is exactly what happens to us. When we are in trouble, when we are in miserable existence, we feel the need to have that anchor, to have that support, to have that help, who can always be with us without condition, without any reciprocation, always there for us. But when there is no problem, we feel pretty confident and we don't need that support. But the reality is, we always have that support. We always have somebody who looks after our needs, gives us the resources, fulfills all that we need on a day-to-day basis throughout this whole lifetime, in fact, lifetime after lifetimes. But most of us are not aware of this existence, of the existence of this person, of this support, of this anchor that we all have in our life. Because we're not aware of that, we suffer. Just like the child is, when the child knows that my father is there by my side, the child is confident to cross the road, even though there might be cars coming in both directions. But when the child is on its own, and even if it sees one or two cars coming, the child is fearful. So as living entities, we also have that anchor in life. So we should not just hold on to the hand whenever we are in trouble. We should always keep holding the hand. When we are in trouble, we hold it even tight and we stay safe. So who is this person? Don't we think that we should know more about this person? Who is this anchor in our life? Who is this person always protecting us? The point is, we have to know it under the right guidance. We have to know about that person from scriptures. And this is a wonderful opportunity to know more about such a person. In fact, all the scriptures, all they do is describe the qualities, the glories of this person, and instructions that this person gives us to lead our life in a much more meaningful way as we progress in our spiritual or material journey. So this person is being described by this great sage Parashar Muni as having 6 opulences. Aishwaryasya samagrasya, Viryasya yashasah shriyaha, Jnana vairagyayos chaiva, Shannam bhaga itingana. So that person who is our anchor in life has got 6 opulences in full. That person has got all the wealth in the creation taken together belongs to him. Ishavasedam sarvam. Aishwaryasya samagrasya, Viryasya, he is extremely powerful, the most powerful personality. He is the most famous personality. He is the most beautiful personality. He is the most knowledgeable personality, and he is renunciation personified. Such a person is always looking after us. More so, there are few other things. Brahma describes him in the first verse of his glorification that we read from Brahma Samhita. What does he say? Brahma is a person who actually names, who gives us the name of this person, the name of this anchor that we have in our life. And what is his name? It comes from this verse. Ishwaraha Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindaha Sarva Karana Karanam. So it is Brahmaji, the first created being, who tells us who the anchor in our life is. And who is that? Ishwara Paramaha Krishna. Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. So this person is called Krishna. He's got many names, but he is, one of his primary names is Krishna. Same thing is being relayed by Shivji in the Gita Mahatmyam, where he says, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam. Eko Deva Devaki Putra Eva. Eko Karma Tasya Namani Yani. Karmapi Ekam Tasya Devasya Seva. So, out of all the scriptures, there is only one main scripture, that is Bhagavad Gita. Out of all the devas, there is the primary person is the supreme person is Krishna. So he again says that Devaki Putra. He gives a description of this person. He gives the name of his mother as well. And obviously, Arjun in many verses in Bhagavad Gita glorifies the Supreme Lord, specifically in chapter 10, where he says, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, Adi Devam Ajam Vibhum. So there are so many descriptions in this Bhagavad Gita. And in 726, Krishna himself says, Vedaham samatitani vartamanani cha Arjuna, avishyani cha bhutani, mam tu veda na kaschana. So Krishna says that Vedaham samatitani, that I know everything that has happened in the past, that will happen in the future, and that is happening in the present. But me, nobody knows. So Krishna laments that I know everything and I want others to know me, but really very few people actually even desire to know me. And knowing Krishna is very wonderful, isn't it? Like, for example, Krishna had spoken the whole Bhagavad Gita. Now we understand that in Bhagavad Gita there are 33 names of Krishna that have been described. Okay, and Arjun primarily asks the most number of questions in Bhagavad Gita, 27 questions. But did you know that Krishna also has asked questions in Bhagavad Gita? Only 2 questions. Interesting trivia. Also, Krishna has, obviously we know he's got 16,108 wives. But out of which there are 8 prominent wives. The first one, as we are all aware, is Rukmini. Then we have Jambavati, we have Satyabhama, we have Nagnajiti, we have Kalindi, Mitravinda, Bhadra, and Lakshmana. And all of them have a nice story about how Krishna was married to them. Like Rukmani was kidnapped, then Kalindi was just pleased Krishna by her austerities, and so on and so forth. Jambavati was given by Jambavan to Krishna when he got to know that the person he was fighting for so long for the Shamantaka jewel was actually his Supreme Lord. So there are very nice stories there. Krishna also has a wonderful chariot that is driven by a person called. So Krishna drives the chariot of Arjun in the Mahabharata war. But Krishna's own chariot, when he's in Dwarka as the king, is driven by Daruk. And he's got a chariot that is drawn by how many horses? 4 horses. And they've got different names, they've got different colors. Wonderful, isn't it? Krishna's conch shell, what's it called? Panchajanya. Krishna has also got a club, a gada, and it is called Kaumudiki. Krishna has also got a bow, and that is called Sharanga bow. So like that, there are many, many descriptions of Krishna that is just wonderful to know. So this opportunity to know more about Krishna is given by us, or given by Krishna to us every day, more so specifically once a year, when we should develop the desire to hear more when he actually appears on this planet, or the anniversary of his appearance. Of course, as devotees or as followers of Srila Prabhupada, we don't wait for once a year occurrences to hear about Krishna. Our goal is to constantly hear about Krishna, at least every day, if not constantly. So Janmastami is just another opportunity for us to fill ourselves with this Krishna Katha. The whole 10th canto starts off with these eager questions of Parikshit Maharaj. Now Parikshit is the grandson of Arjun, who's an eternal associate of Krishna. And there have been so many pastimes that the two of them had together. So although Parikshit knew about the pastimes of Krishna, he still was eager to hear about them when he was listening to Shukadev Goswami. So there is a nice verse in Canto 10, Chapter 1, text 13, to state what should be the mood in hearing Krishna Katha. And in that mood, if we hear, we can actually feel the potency and the presence of Krishna. So this is a nice verse. Naishati dosaha kshunmam tyaktodam api badhyate pibantam tvam mukham bhoja chutam hari kathamritam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So it is said, Parikshit Maharaj is saying, because of my vow on the verge of death, I have given up even drinking water. Yet, because I am drinking the nectar of topics about Krishna, which is flowing from the lotus mouth of your Lordship, my hunger and thirst, which are extremely difficult to bear, cannot hinder me. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, to prepare to meet death in 7 days, Parikshit Maharaj gave up all food and drink. As a human being, he was extremely both hungry and thirsty, and therefore Shukadev Goswami might have wanted to stop narrating the transcendental topics of Krishna. But despite his fast, Parikshit Maharaj was not at all fatigued. The hunger and thirst from my fast do not disturb me, he said. Once when I felt very thirsty, I went to the ashram of Shamik Muni to drink water, but the Muni did not supply. I therefore wrapped a dead snake over his shoulder, and that is why I was cursed by a Brahmana boy. Now, however, I am quite fit. I am not at all disturbed by my hunger and thirst. This indicates that although on the material platform there are disturbances from hunger and thirst, on the spiritual platform there is no such thing as fatigue. The entire world is suffering because of spiritual thirst. Every living being is Brahman or spirit soul and needs spiritual food to satisfy his hunger and thirst. Unfortunately, however, the world is completely unaware of the nectar of Krishna Katha. The Krishna consciousness movement is therefore a boon to philosophers, religionists, and people in general. There is a certain charming attraction in Krishna and Krishna Katha. To stop this repetition of birth and death, Krishna Katha or Krishna consciousness is absolutely necessary. But unless one hears Krishna Katha from a realized soul like Sukadev Goswami, one cannot relish the nectar of Krishna Katha, which puts an end to all material fatigue, and enjoy the blissful life of transcendental existence. In relation to the Krishna consciousness movement, we actually see that those who have tasted the nectar of Krishna Katha lose all material desires. Whereas those who cannot understand Krishna or Krishna Katha regard Krishna conscious life as brainwashing and mind control. While the devotees enjoy spiritual bliss, the non-devotees are surprised that the devotees have forgotten material hankerings. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitami Tasmai Shri Gurave Namo. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Mahavishnu Goswami Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Vishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshadarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Ram. It's a very nice verse that talks about the qualities or the effects of hearing Krishna Katha. So as we are mentioning that Maharaj Parikshit, he knew about Krishna, but still he wanted to hear about Krishna. And when he started hearing about Krishna, he's saying that although he was on the verge of giving up his body, or just death in a few days. He had given up drinking even water. What to talk about food? Obviously, he didn't have any food, any water, no breaks, no toilet breaks, nothing. So he says that yet because he was drinking the nectar of the topics about Krishna, which was flowing from the lotus mouth of an exalted personality like Sukadeva Goswami. So both are important. Krishna Katha should be there, and we have to hear Krishna Katha from a realized soul in bona fide parampara. Then what happens? The hunger and thirst, which are extremely difficult to bear, cannot hinder me. And this is a nice verse to meditate on when we start our sankalpa for fasting during any festivals, during Ekadashi, when we take that decision to fast. This is an interesting aspect. It is very difficult to fast if we do not hear Krishna Katha. Then the mind, after some time, will definitely start looking at the watch, thinking, oh my God, how long more? Is it a half day fast or a full day fast? Like Janmastami is a midnight fast, it's just too much. So, although we somehow or the other push ourselves, the mind gets extremely agitated. So, the anecdote or the solution to that is if we can spend some time, at least in the morning or in that fasting period. It might not be possible all the time, considering we may not be able to take the day off, the day we fast from work. But if we can go a bit late, or we can take the day off, and we actually, even at our own place, start reading scrutinizingly this Krishna Katha, hear from Srila Prabhupada's purports, then what happens? Our mind, it becomes completely engrossed. And when the mind is engrossed, it does not have space or time to think about the hunger. It doesn't have time to think about the thirst. And then we feel that bliss and the nectar actually enlivening us from within when we actually hear this katha. So that's why Prabhupada instituted that every day we must begin our day obviously with japa and then hear about Krishna. So these are some of the important aspects to just keep in mind before we start hearing any of the pastimes of the Lord himself. So as we are seeing that there are so many aspects about Krishna that we sometimes are not aware of, but it's just good to know, and even if we are aware of, it's good to remind ourselves through these verses, through these pastimes, the glories of Krishna and the fact that how he's actually looking after us every moment of our existence. So we will have a glimpse into the details of Krishna, of how Krishna actually appeared. There is a little bit more information than the simple fact of how it all started. So we know that this actual katha starts when Bhudevi goes to Brahma. But prior to that, something interesting actually leads to that event. So we know that when Parashuram, he annihilated the Kshatriya dynasty, how many times? 21 times. So what had happened? All the Kshatriyas were wiped out. So all the Kshatranis, the queens, they did not have any children. So there was nobody to continue the dynasty of the kings ahead, nobody to rule. And the earth planet or the kingdom without a king cannot survive. So all these Kshatranis, they begged the Brahmins to help them produce progeny and take their dynasty ahead. So the Brahmanas, they obliged, and through the Brahmanas, the Kshatrani ladies, they got worthy sons who had the blood of a Kshatriya and a Brahmana. So they were actually Raj Rishis. So such glorious, qualified Kshatriyas were born, and then they started ruling earth. Now, while this was going on, in the heavenly planets, we hear that the Daityas or the demons, they were constantly being harassed and defeated by the Devatas. And they got extremely frustrated, and because they didn't have a place to live there, they were constantly being defeated. So they were searching out for other options, what to do. So they decided at that point of time that the best thing is to take birth on earth in Kshatriya families and rule. So at that point of time, a lot of these demons, they started taking birth in Kshatriya families, and as they grew up, obviously when demons grow up, the demoniac qualities also grow with them. And when they started ruling eventually, when they came of age, they were obviously ruling as demoniac kings. And when the demoniac king rules, everybody suffers, all the citizens and Mother Earth as well. So, for example, the demon Viprachitti was born as Jarasandha. The demon Hiranyakashipu was born as Shishupal. Hiranyaksh, Dantavakra. Kalanemi was born as Kamsa. We'll hear a little bit about this pastime of how Kalanemi became Kamsa. It's very interesting. So like that, many people were born. So a portion of Kali was born as Duryodhan. A portion of Dwapar Yuga was born as Shakuni. All the sons of Pulastya Muni were born as the sons of Dhritarashtra, a brother of Duryodhan. So like that, a lot of demons took birth. Alongside, obviously, a lot of devatas also took birth at that point of time. But when this description is given, the number of demoniac kings increased so much that Mother Earth could not bear the demoniac qualities and the injustice that was meted out to citizens at large by these demoniac kings. So she was extremely aggrieved. So she went to Lord Brahma and was complaining about her condition and the fact that she was so much overburdened by the evil kings. So Brahma was very considerate. He took her to the ocean of milk, the Kshirodakshai, Vishnu, and appealed to Vishnu to help in this regard. Oh no, what can we do? Or please help us. And when they all assembled, all the devatas, in fact, Brahma went with all the devatas and assembled there and put their petition. And then they heard an unembodied voice suddenly address them after they finished putting their petition. And they basically said that you should hear this instruction and follow it as soon as you can. So when the Lord said that I'm going to appear as a son of Devaki very soon and relieve the earth of the burden of these demoniac kings. And all the devatas should help me by taking birth in the Yadu dynasty specifically, and take birth before I actually appear, so that they are able to assist me in my mission. Now the Lord obviously doesn't need that help, but it is a part of his pastimes where he wants to involve his devotees in his mission that he's about to execute. So when that happened, some of the prominent demigods, they also took birth. And we know a portion of these demigods took birth, like the Pandavas. Yudhishthir was Dharmaraj. Bhim was a son of the Varun, the wind god. Arjun was a son of Indra. So similarly, we find that Agni Dev came as Drishtadumna. Then we had Brihaspati, who appeared as Drona. It's all a portion of these devatas. And interestingly, the son of Soma, the moon god, he was also told to appear but the moon god was he was extremely affectionate towards his son, and he didn't want him to appear on earth. So he was a bit hesitant. And when the devatas insisted, he agreed, but he said on one condition: my son Varchas will go to the earth and only be there for 16 years, and I then want him back. But in the 16 years that he's there, he will become a great warrior, and before he comes back to me, he's going to fight in an epic war, and he will become a hero by annihilating 1/4 of the opposing army in just half a day. And then he will come back to me. But before he comes back, he will also be the cause of producing the offspring that will further the dynasty of the winning army. And so Varchas was born as you guessed, Abhimanyu, the son of Arjuna. So this is how various devatas and danas, they took birth, and then the scene was set to actually have the appearance of Krishna. So we will, in the next part, start from that big wedding that took place which was the wedding between the Yadu dynasty and the Vrishnis. So Yadu was obviously a very, very powerful dynasty at that point, and Vrishni was kind of subordinate, but they were powerful as well. So Gargacharya, he got the proposal of the very nice devotee and Kshatriya king Vasudev with Devaki. And on his proposal, both the families agreed, and they arranged for a marriage ceremony that was never to be seen, a magnificent marriage ceremony. And one of the personalities that was most pleased with the wedding was none other than Devaki's cousin brother, Kamsa. So next time we will see how it all starts, and we'll also look at the past life of Kamsa to understand how he was behaving at that point of time, what was his intent at that point of time, how the sequence of events led to his becoming who he was, and then the marriage, and then what happened post marriage, which is common knowledge. But we'll try to look at some of the lessons from that story, which all of us know, but it's good to take some lessons from there and see how we can use that in our life. And before we conclude today, just a reminder that tomorrow is Radhashtami, and I'm sure all the devotees will be eagerly awaiting this event, specifically when we get an opportunity to see the event online, considering we cannot go to the temple with this Alert 3 lockdown. But we'll sure catch up with the telecast. And as we mentioned, it is a good time to hear more and more and more Krishna Katha. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Krishna Bhagavan ki jai, Radharani's appearance day ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. If anybody has any questions or comments, you can type straight away. Otherwise, we will call it a day and see you next week, same day, same time. Hare Krishna.